Are you interested in long exposure photography? Have you seen pictures online or from your friends that show these water features that are smooth and have a hazy look over the whole picture, and wonder to yourself, how did they do that? What did they use to do that? Well, wonder no more. Today we're going to walk into a waterfall nearby where I live. I'm going to show you several different images, and we'll go over the settings, and we'll take pictures of the same scene with different settings. I'll show you how that will affect the final product, and we will demystify the exposure triangle. We'll also go over Lightroom's AI noise reduction features, and I'll let you know when you may need to use noise reduction in your images. And by the way, this can be done on any camera, even a phone, as long as it has a pro mode where you can control all of the 3 different settings that we're about to go over. This will allow you to take a DNG or a digital negative. If you don't know what I'm talking about, run a search on your phone, and you'll find the information you need. So if that sounds like a good plan to you, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and let's get right into it. Make sure you stay tuned to the end. I'm going to go over a vital piece of kit for getting images similar to this one.
Hello, my name is Shane Higgins. I'm an amateur photographer based out of Nova Scotia in the east coast of Canada. I enjoy shooting wildlife, rural landscape, urban landscape, candid street portraits, cars, architecture, historical landmarks, and historical photo recreations, along with everything to do with drones, photo, and video. I'm always learning and trying to learn new things, and then passing that information on to you guys the best way I know how. If that's something you might be interested in, follow along with me. Make sure that you like my video. Alright, let's get to the video.
All the shots in this video, and all videos for the time being, are taken on my Canon EOS R100 mirrorless camera, which I bought and paid for. I got it. It wasn't sent to me, let's put it that way. I would say this camera is pretty budget friendly. I'd say it's in the budget category. If you'd like to see a review on that camera, let me know with a comment down below, and I'd be happy to make it. Alright, let's get to the shutter speed. As we begin this, I want to be upfront. I've never taken a photography class, unless you consider watching hours of YouTube a class, but I have taught myself this to a point where I understand it. So hopefully I'll be able to pass the idea on to you. Shutter speed is one of the 3 elements of the exposure triangle. And the way that I like to think about the exposure triangle, I like to break the 3 settings down into 2 categories. So the first category I use in my mind when I'm going to take a photo are the light gathering elements. And this is going to be the ISO and the aperture. And the second category is a representation of the time or the motion, and that's the shutter speed, the one that we're going to really focus on today. Let's break that down a bit. Let's start with the light gathering category, as I like to call it, ISO and aperture. In way oversimplified terms, these 2 parameters set the amount of light that the sensor is going to see for your image. So the aperture does this with a tiny, with a hole in, that's not going to look good, with a hole in your lens that gets smaller or bigger. And this can be a confusing scale. The number is represented by a number over an F, and the smaller the number gets, the bigger the opening to the sensor gets. And so the smaller the number, the more light that gets let in. Now there's a lot more to aperture. It also controls the depth of field in your image, but for today we're just going to keep it simple. I want you to start thinking about the exposure triangle, thinking about the bigger picture of it, and when it comes to exposure. To me, figuring this out is kind of like a fundamental, and then when you start to play with the depth of field and stuff, that, you know, you'll figure that out. Okay, so ISO, in incredibly oversimplified terms, is the amount of added brightness to the image electronically. And smaller numbers represent less brightness than bigger numbers. So ISO 200 is brighter than ISO 100. I'll get into this in slightly more detail when we get to our next to the shutter speed, but for now, that's a simple way to think about it. So like I said before, the shutter speed controls the amount of time that the sensor is open and gathering information. An easy way to think about this is if you had your camera on a tripod where everything is still where everything that is still in your frame. So all the buildings, trees if it's not windy, people who aren't moving, whatever. And you set your camera to a 2-second shutter speed, the camera's going to capture everything that happened in that 2 seconds in a static image. So I like to think about it like it's a movie being played just over one frame instead of frames. Just remember to keep an eye on your histogram, or turn highlight blinkies on, because leaving the shutter open for too long is going to let too much light in overall. So if you can't control it to your liking with the two settings that gather light that we talked about before, you might have to use an ND filter, or wait till the lighting conditions are better. And we'll go over ND filters in more detail in a minute. So now shutter speed has much more drastic effects creativity-wise to the image as opposed to the other two settings. And the best way to learn this is to just look at other creators for inspiration. There's all kinds of really cool stuff that you can do with long exposure photography. And then get out there and just try it, which is what I'm hoping to inspire with this series here. So yesterday I went to a local waterfall. I took a few different images at different shutter speeds to illustrate this effect for you guys. Running water and a long shutter speed make for some really cool effects. The only thing that your camera needs to stay still over the duration of the shutter being open, if you want the things that aren't moving in your composition to be focused or sharp anyway. For this you'll need a sturdy tripod, probably one that has legs that can go different sizes, so in case you got weird terrain. Another thing that you might throw a wrench into your long exposure is stuff moving that you don't want to move. So like trees, they can look weird if, yeah, I'll show you an image now and I'll just show you how it looks weird. Now of course there's all kinds of opportunities to break these rules for cool shot ideas. I actually just saw one recently on Instagram where a guy was looking over the city and he took the picture with his camera, but as the shutter was open he turned it and it made like a 360-degree light trail. It's really cool. I'll put his handle in the description. we've made it down to the waterfall. Let's check out a few different photos, and I will explain to you the settings that I used. I'll display the settings with the photos so you can write them down or screenshot them. Make sure you tag me in any photos if you get something cool out there. My Instagram's displayed on the screen now. Alright, let's get going by, let's start by freezing the motion of the waterfall. This first image that you're seeing here on screen now was taken with a shutter speed of 1/250 seconds, or 0.0025 seconds. And that's how much time the sensor was open, so very short. This short open time mostly stops the water, and it gives the water a nice texture. It gives the water sharp edges. Now, if the water is moving slower, you can get away with using a slower shutter speed to achieve the same effect. It just so happens the water was moving pretty quick here today. One thing I want you to notice with this image and the next one is the amount of noise that you can see in the dark spots. Because of the short shutter speed, and it was pretty low light this day because of the canopy, the camera picked a higher ISO, which exposes the noise in the dark spots of the image. I'll show you before, but this is a perfect photo to use noise reduction software on. I'm going to do a before and after of this photo now. This video is not sponsored by Lightroom at all, but their noise reduction AI is pretty good. I find that it works really good. Alright, so let's move on to a new image, and we'll get a little more movement of the water here. Just a little more. We'll jump up to 1/100th of a second, 0.001 seconds of exposure time. This eliminates some of the noise in the image, making for a more balanced exposure overall and capturing more detail. But it was fast enough that the water still has lots of textures and it's frozen in place. This is a great example of how getting it right in camera is a better option than trying to play with it in software after. Alright, now this is what you guys have been waiting for. The silky smooth waterfall with the white highlights and the cool looking haze. These long exposure shots have become some of my favorite images, like pictures to get, period. This shot was taken with an 8-second exposure, but you'll notice that the exposure of the image is similar to that of the others. And how did I accomplish that? Well, of course, I went to the exposure triangle, and if I wanted to leave the shutter open, we know we got to change the other two to allow less light in. So I bumped down the ISO to 100, the lowest the camera will take, and I used a higher aperture number to allow less light to the sensor. If you're in the woods and you're in the canopy, or it's, you know, sunrise or sunset, you might be able to get away with just using these two, but for this shot I had to use some extra help. I had an ND filter. I have an ND filter, and those are neural density filters. I think that's what they're called. Neutral density filters? Yeah, neutral density filters. This is also going to be an extreme oversimplification, but ND filters are basically a light blocking filter. It allows you to control the light better getting to the sensor. I like to think of it as the exact opposite of ISO, but physical instead of digital. If you'd like a video on how those filters work and a recommendation for one, let me know in a comment. After we get the light right, you'll see that capturing the whole 8 seconds of water moving really smoothed out the water. You can even see the circular current from the water there at the bottom of where the water's hitting the pool. It's pretty cool looking. Like I said, these are some of my favorite images to take right now. Since we have this ND filter, let's get extreme with it. This exposure was taken with a 30-second shutter speed, the maximum for my camera without going into bulb mode, which just allows you to control it with the shutter, with the button, sorry. Control the amount of time with a button. You know what I'm saying. We just had some rain here in the Maritimes, which we really needed. It's been dry, so the waterfall was just pounding away this day. This is just supposed to be a small brook. Look at that motion there. Crazy. Alright, I think that's basically going to do it. I want to keep this pretty short. If you guys have enjoyed this, I don't know, tutorial, I guess, and you like the way that I simplify things, hit that like button. If you can think of someone in your life who would like a video like this, it was just getting into photography or something, share it with them. And if you learned anything, make sure you tag me in your post, or leave me a comment somewhere, or whatever you think, just for some engagement. That'd be really great of you. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, peace.